This is one of the most polarizing baseball games of all time. Base Wars is the sort of game that you either really love or really hate. There are some solid aspects of its gameplay, and there are some things here that just really drive me nuts. But is this game worth playing today? Well, this is one of those NES baseball games that many of you have been requesting for quite some time now, and it really isn't all that easy to review, to be honest with you. I mean, there are aspects of this game that I really love and other aspects that are totally janky. I'll tell you here in a second. But the biggest question I have in my mind is where in the world this game comes from. Base Wars came out in 1991 as part of the so-called Cyber Stadium series. It's the only game in that series. It was published by Ultra Games, which was a subsidiary of Konami, and the story behind that is actually pretty interesting. You see, back in Nintendo's Monopoly days, the company came out with a rule saying that third-party licensees could only release 5 games a year in the United States. This was an attempt by Nintendo to avoid the glut of awful games that allegedly crashed the North American video game market in 1983. The theory was apparently that the NES would fare better if there were fewer games for the system and if the titles were of higher quality. Now, it's undeniable that in 1983, the big problems came about in part because there were too many awful clones of each other out there. This is pretty clear if you've ever played these old games, right? I can't tell you how many stupid Pac-Man clones I've played. But the truth is that open competition also promotes innovation. Now, Nintendo's decision, honestly, was more about the company trying to squeeze its third-party licensees more than anything else. And you have to remember that Nintendo had so much market presence, especially in the late 1980s, that the company could demand anything that it wanted from these other companies. So I know that the Sega Master System was a thing, of course, but almost nobody actually owned one of these things. It wasn't really until the Genesis came along that Nintendo had a viable competitor. And the Genesis was able to attract a lot of third-party companies because it didn't have the stupid arbitrary rules that Nintendo had. Anyway, so Konami built up Ultra Games as a shell company to get around these ridiculous rules that Nintendo had put in place. The Konami wanted to make more games for the North American market, and this is how it could do so. And I should note that the Famicom did not have any of these restrictions. The lockout chip and all of that garbage was entirely an American thing. Why? Because America is the land of the monopoly, of course. So it seems that Konami made Ultra Games mostly to get the Famicom version of Metal Gear released in the North American market. This version is generally thought of as a lower quality port of the MSX Classic, but it was still a major seller. Ultra Games also came out with some great classics, like Kings of the Beach, one of the best volleyball games on the NES. And there was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, which was a great port. But not everything that Ultra Games put out was of high quality. Some of these games were pretty clearly just cash grabs. Well, you already know about the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. All of us played this when we were kids. I mean, the game's not horrible and it sold well, but it's still nothing like the second game. And then there were games like Skate or Die, which I remember playing a ton when I was a kid. Games like this, in hindsight, were pretty bad. And unfortunately, Base Wars fits into that mostly bad category. It's got tons of problems as a baseball game, and the fighting elements are also really, really poorly done. But that doesn't mean that the whole game is awful. In fact, there are some good reasons to really like this game. Well, for one thing, everything in this game is customizable. You can change the name of literally everything to whatever you want it to be. There's a battery in the cartridge, which means that the game will save whatever it is you change. And you can buy upgrades for your players to give them like weapons and stuff. In that sense, it's got a lot of the excellent elements of games like Baseball Stars. And it's a great multiplayer game. Seriously, I swear that all of the people who praised this game and who loved it when they were kids all played it with friends when they were kids. As a one-player game, however, it's really, really frustrating. There's a major learning curve, and there isn't a whole lot to really keep you playing, especially if you compare it to the other baseball games on the system. Let's start with the pitcher-batter matchup. This is one of those games with huge sprites. Now, the idea of shooting the ball past the hitter using a cannon is pretty cool, sure. But the hit detection in this game is way off. If you slow it down, you'll see what I'm talking about. You never actually see the ball hit the bat. And you know, that's the first really disorienting point. When you're batting, you have no idea when you're supposed to actually swing. This is something that a lot of really bad NES games have in common. And it's bizarre since Pro Yaku Family Stadium did hitting the right way back in 1986. So look at this. In Family Stadium, you can actually see the ball hit the bat. There is a brief blank screen after you hit the ball, sure. But you get the feeling that you actually, hit the ball. In games like Major League Baseball, making contact is about swinging at the right time. There's really no physics that connect the ball to the bat. Bo Jackson's baseball has the exact same problem. And if you look closely, you'll notice that Legends of the Diamond also suffers from this issue. It's not just an NES problem, by the way. Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball, and the Super Nintendo has the same problem. Anyway, so I guess that some good games, if you consider that game good, have some hit detection problems as well. Seriously though, I really need to emphasize this point. The best NES baseball games all let you clearly see that you've made contact with the ball. It's obvious in Baseball Stars, for example. You can see the ball hit the bat. It's the same thing in Dusty Diamond's All-Star Softball. And in Bad News Baseball. Not only does Baseball Simulator show it to you, but it has some fun with the contact as well. And you can see it in Little League World Series also. So I really want to drive this point home for you. All right, the 5 games I just listed are the 5 best baseball games on the NES. And the one thing that they all have in common is the fact that you can actually clearly see the bat hit the ball. There's none of this like screen flashing garbage. It's the sort of thing that those of us who play a ton of these baseball games notice right away. So I guess it's nice that you can swing really fast in Base Wars to fight off a fastball, but half the time I can't figure out how to time my swing. Because I can't see my batter actually making contact, I'm just guessing all the time. And it really is annoying. Well, I've got to chalk that up to the programmers just glossing over the details. I mean, it just feels cheap, that's all that there is to it. And for me, the fact that you can throw the ball like 200 miles an hour is offset by the awful hit detection when you're hitting. And then there's fielding, and fielding is a huge problem in this game. The camera is zoomed way in, which is a big problem. Now remember, we saw a similar issue in Baseball Stars. And just like Baseball Stars, Base Wars will give you a fielder in the right place automatically. However, if you move the D-pad at all when the ball is hit in the air, your guy will be way out of position and there's no way to even tell where he is. The auto fielding will also give up a ton of singles for no reason at all. So to me, the fielding in Base Wars feels as frustrating as Bases Loaded 3. I mean, why does it have to be zoomed in so much? What was wrong with a fielding perspective like this? I really think these companies wanted to show off the sprites. I'm not sure why in this case, because they look really ugly. And I mean, the whole thing is just a headache. If you're playing a baseball game on the NES, you really don't care so much about like how the tanks look on the field or whatever. You just want to see what you're doing, and this just really drives me nuts. It shouldn't be like this. I've already talked about how this is a problem in a ton of the 16-bit games as well. Even the best 16-bit baseball games have an issue with the sprites being stupidly large. I don't know why companies love doing this so much in the 1990s. You've even got games like Mega Man Soccer where you can literally not see what you're doing most of the time. I mean, is there any wonder that so many people stick with RBI baseball to this day? Now, the other problem with Base Wars is that the camera is horrible. I mean, really, really bad. We're talking like crappy N64 game levels of bad here. Half the time you can't even see where the ball is going because the camera is just too slow. This also happens when you throw the ball into the infield, which is totally ridiculous. It's like playing OOTP with the camera settings set a little bit too slow. It's really distracting and it makes the whole game feel like junk. Fielding in Base Wars is the worst part of the game. And this is the big problem since you will spend most of your time fielding. And I haven't even touched on the most annoying part of fielding yet. It's the part that's most famous. It's the one you already know about. It's all the stupid fighting. Every time there's a tag play, you get this fighting screen. Each fight lasts maybe 5 seconds. The only strategy that seems to work is just to mash buttons. Now the reason you get weapons is for fights like this. But you need the right weapon. The handgun totally sucks. My problem though is that you get the fighting screen way too often. This gets really old really fast. Now this is where I think this game is likely much better as a two-player game. In one player, the computer just spams the same stupid move over and over and over again, and when you win, it's because you hit them first, and when you lose, it's because you can't do anything edgewise because it keeps spamming the same thing. It's no fun at all. And now I've heard that when you have enough money in game, you can buy like the super laser so you can just like shoot the computer player and destroy him, and then that's it, right? So what's the point of fighting then if the way to win and master it is to just do like one move? Well, I think the idea was to add some variety to the gameplay. It's sort of like fighting in Blades of Steel, which is legitimately one of the best hockey games for the NES. But in Blades of Steel, there's at least some kind of strategy. You don't see the computer just spam the same attack over and over again. The fighting in this game is the worst part of the game, and it really pisses me off. Why couldn't it be more balanced, like something like Konami's Martial Champion? Yeah, Martial Champions by Konami. I know, that's a really, really obscure game to reference. Anyway, the fighting in this game is one of those love it or hate it things. If you really like the fighting scenes, you're gonna love this game. If you don't like them though, and I really don't like them, then you're going to really dislike this game because the fighting scenes come up like all the time. I mean, there are times in this game where there's a forced play at the bag, but because it's like somewhat close or something, they let you fight anyway. It just drives me nuts. And that's really the reason why I can't get deep into this game. Anyway, there's Base Wars. The customization actually is really cool. The idea of using weapons is pretty neat and original for a baseball game. However, the basic baseball elements are flawed at best. And fighting, at least in the one-player mode, is really frustrating. Anyway, overall, I would say that this is an above-average NES game, mostly because of the customization and because it's a lot of fun when you play multiplayer. And to be really blunt, I wish that we had a remake of this game. The underlying idea here is actually really good, and I include the fighting part along with that. It's just that the programmers cut way too many corners with the basic gameplay here. If they had made a solid baseball game, and if the fighting part wasn't just about spamming the button over and over again, this would have been an excellent game.